So this is my first attempt at trying to extend the range of my converted electric bicycle by using a solar panel. The solar panel is rated for 100 watts, but it's a little old and doesn't actually output 100 watts even at the perfect angle to the sun. And lying flat, it gets even less than that, and when my shadow casts over it, it gives nothing. So it's not a very good setup, and I wouldn't use this again. That being said, it did charge the battery while I was riding a little bit, extending the range somewhat, and justified doing later experiments. It started out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and my destination is Kurt Gowdy State Park. It's about a 35-mile trip with 2,000 feet of climbing. My average speed on the way out to the campsite was 12.4 miles an hour, with a maximum speed of 25 miles an hour, so not a very quick pace, but respectable. Overall, it was a nice sunny day, the drivers were respectful, and part of the reason that I chose this route did have to do with the fact that the shoulders are wide, and I didn't have to worry too much about drivers. My bicycle, which you will see, is a 2014 Rocky Mountain 29-inch bicycle, but I replaced the rear wheel with a 26-inch so that I could take some of the stress off of the chain while climbing. When I got to the campsite, I did realize that the site that I had picked wasn't going to give me very much exposure to the sun, either at night or in the morning, so I took some time and went to find a better campsite. Even though these are reserved, no one was really there, and I said, fuck it. Here's a side profile of my bike. You can see the 29-inch wheel in the front and the 26-inch wheel on the back. I've had this for over 10 years, and I knew that it was going to be able to make it. Now, having the trailer hooked up to the quick release skewer did bend the quick release skewer, which wasn't great. There's my 750 watt Bafang mid-drive with a 42-inch sprocket. And there's my reserve battery, just in case the main battery didn't take charge or something else failed. The power is delivered from the trailer itself, which is where I keep the main battery. It is a homemade battery, so it looks a little shitty. There's the MPPT charge controller, which did a fine job. And there is the 100-watt solar panel doing what it can, though that is not much. That is a wall charger, a DC buck converter, and an inverter. Things that I brought along just in case. The camping spot that I ended up at was good overall for sun exposure, even with the cloud cover. As you can see, I used the 2x4s and fencing to support some of my camping gear because it would not fit underneath the flat-packed solar panel. I did have some problems with my tent and camp chair rubbing against the wheels, but being able to tie them up a little bit higher with some 550 cord kept them from rubbing on the tires and rubbing holes through the outside bags. On the return trip, I did switch over to the reserve battery because the solar panel was not up to the task of topping off my main battery. Overall, switching to the 12 amp hour reserve battery from the 20 amp hour main battery was not a problem because it was all downhill. My average speed on the return trip was 15 miles an hour with a max speed of 27.4 miles an hour. I did not set up the solar panel to charge the reserve battery because it would have been a bit of a hassle, and I already had all the information that I needed from the trip out to understand that this particular setup was not going to be something I wanted to repeat. And it didn't matter because for the entire 35 miles, if I remember correctly, I used 2 volts off of my state of charge, so Not a whole lot of power needed to return, mostly riding the brakes and a little bit of pedaling. Overall, this was a mildly successful trip because even though the solar panel didn't do a very good job, the trailer and MPPT charge controller did. I had decided at this point that I would go ahead and use a 2 solar panel setup for my next test run and just repeat this trip on another day. No time is wasted as long as you're learning something, and this trip definitely taught me a lot. I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did, there is a follow-up video with me riding with 2 solar panels, which did a much better job at extending my range and actually charging the battery while I was riding. Anyway, thanks for riding with me. Hope you come again.